You won't believe what happened next. Trust me, by the end of this story, you'll understand why this is one of those moments that restores your faith in honor, sacrifice, and the unbreakable bonds of family. So make sure you're comfortable, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell, because you're not going to want to miss a single detail of this incredible true story. The air on the deck of the USS Michaelson was thick with salt and a palpable sense of pride. It was a Tiger Cruise day, where family members of the crew got to experience a tiny slice of life at sea. The massive gray ship cut through the Pacific swells, a floating city of discipline and power. Among the civilians, wide-eyed and clutching the rail, was a man named Liam O'Connell. He was in his late 30s, with the kind of tired eyes that hinted at stories he never told, and the calloused hands of someone who worked with them for a living. Beside him, his 7-year-old daughter, Chloe, bounced on the balls of her feet, her small hand securely wrapped in his. Liam was a single dad, a landscape architect who spent his days coaxing beauty from the earth and his nights reading bedtime stories about princesses and dragons. His world was small, meticulously built around his daughter. This trip was a splurge, a chance for Chloe to see where her beloved Uncle Mark, a senior chief petty officer, worked. To Liam, the Navy was his brother's world, a universe of jargon, ritual, and hierarchy that was as foreign to him as his own quiet garden was to these sailors. That's when Petty Officer Second Class Davis swaggered over. He was a SEAL, compact and coiled, confidence radiating off him like heat from the deck. He was good at his job, and he knew it. He'd been assigned to mingle with the families, and he saw Liam, a civilian in a simple polo shirt and khakis, as an easy target for a little good-natured ribbing. "Afternoon," Davis said, a lopsided grin on his face. "Enjoying the ride?" Liam smiled politely. "It's incredible. Thank you for having us." Davis glanced at Chloe, who hid shyly behind her father's leg, then back at Liam. "So, what's your story? You look like a man who's seen a thing or two. Let me guess, logistics. Maybe a cook in a past life." He was setting up the punchline, his tone dripping with playful condescension. Liam just shook his head, his smile never wavering. "Nothing that exciting, I'm afraid. I work with plants." Davis chuckled, nudging the sailor next to him. "Hey, we got a regular horticulturist on board." He turned back to Liam, the joke now fully formed in his mind. "All right, seriously though, what was your rank when you served? Everyone on this cruise is family, so you must have been something. Don't be shy." The truth was, Liam had never served. He'd wanted to, once, a lifetime ago. But life, as it often does, had other plans. He opened his mouth to explain, but before he could utter a word, a new voice cut through the air, sharp and clear as a ship's bell. "That's a question I'd like the answer to as well." Everyone turned. Walking towards them, his dress whites immaculate and the stars on his shoulders catching the sun, was Rear Admiral James Walsh, the commander of the entire carrier strike group. A hush fell over the immediate area. Behind him were two more admirals, their faces stern and unreadable. Petty Officer Davis snapped to attention, his playful demeanor evaporating instantly. "Admiral, sir, I was just..." Admiral Walsh ignored him. His eyes were locked on Liam, but they held no mockery. They held something else entirely, a deep, profound respect. Liam met his gaze, and for a fleeting second, the cheerful, present-day dad vanished, replaced by a ghost of the man he used to be. A man forged in a different kind of fire. The air grew thick with tension. Chloe peeked out from behind Liam, her small face confused by the sudden silence. Liam placed a reassuring hand on her head. Admiral Walsh came to a halt directly in front of Liam. "Petty Officer Davis asked you a question, son," he said, his voice low but carrying across the deck. "What was your rank?" Liam took a slow, quiet breath. He looked from the Admiral's intense stare to Davis's bewildered face, and then down at his daughter. He didn't speak. He simply reached into his back pocket and pulled out a worn, brown leather wallet, so old it was soft as cloth. With movements that were gentle and deliberate, he extracted a small, faded photograph and held it out. It wasn't a military ID. It was a picture of a much younger Liam, his face smudged with dirt and sweat, but beaming with pride. He was in body armor, holding a rifle, but he wasn't in a U.S. uniform. He was standing in front of a dusty, bullet-pocked schoolhouse. And nestled in his arms, wrapped in a clean blanket despite the grime all around, was a tiny, dark-haired girl with enormous, terrified eyes. It was Chloe. The story unfolded then, not from Liam's lips, but from Admiral Walsh's, his voice gruff with emotion. "That, petty officer," the Admiral began, his eyes never leaving Liam's, "is the rank of a hero. This man was a civilian contractor, a structural engineer working for a non-profit in a war-torn country you've only seen on the news. The compound he was in was overrun. While others were evacuated, he refused to leave. He stayed for 3 days, with little more than a pistol in his wits, using his knowledge of the building's architecture to protect the last 23 children and 2 teachers hiding in the basement." Liam's gaze dropped to the deck. He could still smell the dust, still hear the pops of distant gunfire, still feel the weight of the small, trembling girl who had clung to him as if he were a mountain in a landslide. He had saved them all, directing the rescue convoy via a dying satellite phone. The little girl he held in the picture had been orphaned in the chaos. Her eyes, full of a loss no child should ever know, had mirrored a loss in his own soul. His wife had passed away from illness just a year before. It was a sign, a fate he couldn't ignore. He had fought through a labyrinth of international red tape for over a year to adopt her, to bring her home, to give her a safe and quiet life among the flowers and the bedtime stories. He was offered every commendation, Admiral Walsh continued, the other admirals nodding in solemn agreement. The Navy, the State Department, they all wanted to give him a medal. He refused them all. He said he wasn't a soldier. He said he just did what any decent human being would do. The Admiral's voice broke slightly. "But we know better. We know courage when we see it. And we know that the title, Dad, he earned in that hellhole carries more honor than any rank I could ever hope to achieve." Then, Admiral Walsh did something no one on that deck expected. He straightened his spine, brought his hand up in a razor-sharp salute, his gaze fixed on Liam O'Connell, the single dad, the landscape architect, the quiet hero. A heartbeat later, the 2 other admirals saluted. Then, the nearby ship's captain saluted. One by one, like a wave of absolute respect rolling across the deck, every single officer and sailor in view, including a utterly humbled and awestruck Petty Officer Davis, snapped their hands to their brows, their salutes a silent, powerful tribute to a different kind of service, a different kind of valor. Liam stood there, with his daughter clinging to his leg, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. He hadn't wanted this. He never wanted any of it. He just wanted to give Chloe a good life. But in that moment, surrounded by the unwavering respect of these warriors, he felt a strange sense of peace. The 2 halves of his life, the man he had to be in the past to become the dad he was today, had finally, and publicly, been reconciled. Petty Officer Davis, his face pale, stepped forward. "Sir," he said, his voice thick with genuine remorse and newfound respect. I apologize. I had no idea." Liam finally looked up, managing a small, genuine smile. He put his wallet away and placed a hand on Davis's shoulder. "It's okay, son. You were just making conversation." He then looked down at Chloe and whispered, "It's okay, sweetheart. These are the good guys." The spell was broken. The salutes lowered, and the deck slowly returned to its normal hum of activity, but the atmosphere was forever changed. So, what's the message here? It's that heroes don't always wear uniforms. They wear the tired eyes of a single parent who works 2 jobs. They wear the worn-out jeans of a teacher buying supplies for her class. They are the quiet ones walking among us, carrying burdens we can't imagine and triumphs they never speak of. Liam's story teaches us that the highest rank isn't on a uniform, it's etched on the heart. It's the rank of a protector, a provider, a father. If this story moved you, if it reminded you of the quiet strength in your own life or the unsung heroes you know, then do me a favor. Share this video. Let's spread this message of honor and humility. And subscribe to the channel, because we're dedicated to bringing you more real-life stories that prove that light will always, always conquer the dark. Thanks for watching.